We have now completed the first full day, and only one full day, of the impeachment process in the House of Representatives that Speaker Nancy Pelosi made official last evening. And we are already at the release the transcripts stage of the impeachment investigation. The official impeachment investigation of President Richard Nixon took several months to get to the release the transcripts stage. President Nixon finally was forced by subpoena to deliver the first transcripts of his White House conversations to the House Judiciary Committee on May 3rd, 1974. And then the impeachment process really picked up speed. And only 3 months later, it was over. Richard Nixon resigned the presidency. The impeachment process has once again really picked up speed, but Donald Trump won't resign the presidency. But a lot can happen in the next 3 months. Donald Trump can be impeached, and he can be impeached before Christmas. We will begin this program tonight the way the impeachment hearings will begin, with a verification of the document that has now become the most important public document in the impeachment investigation of Donald Trump. The memorandum of telephone conversation between President Trump and President Zelensky of Ukraine. Larry Pfeiffer, who has prepared documents like this for President Barack Obama's conversations with leaders of foreign governments, will start us off tonight with just his simple reading of this memo, verifying this memo. Does it look like a legitimate summary of that kind of conversation? Is there anything strange about the memo other than what the president actually says in the memo? Larry Pfeiffer is the person to answer those questions tonight. This memo might be outdone by other documents as the investigation proceeds, and that might happen soon. It might be outdone by the whistleblower's report, which is now in the possession of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees. We'll be joined by a member of the House Intelligence Committee who has read the whistleblower's report. We will also be joined by two high-ranking members of the Obama administration's foreign policy and national security team, former Undersecretary of State Wendy Sherman and former Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes. John Howell and Mike Murphy will join us to consider the new shape of our politics now that Donald Trump has become the fourth president in history to face an official impeachment process. And later in this hour, we will hear from a former federal prosecutor. We'll ask Mimi Rocah if she sees any federal crimes in this transcript of the president's conversation with the president of Ukraine. Is this a smoking gun? And at the end of the hour, we'll tell you what to watch for and what to expect in that public hearing beginning at 9 a.m. tomorrow in the House Intelligence Committee, a hearing that we already know will be historic. The acting director of national intelligence, Joseph Maguire, will testify to the committee and explain why he blocked the Inspector General's report of the whistleblower's complaint. Former House Intelligence Committee staffer Mika Ouyang will tell us exactly what the committee staff is doing right now at their desks tonight to prepare the members of that committee for tomorrow's hearing and what the members will be trying to achieve in that hearing tomorrow morning, beginning at 9 a.m. right here on MSNBC. As of tonight, this 5-page memorandum of telephone conversation released by the White House today has made this is the 5-page memorandum. It has made this 448-page Mueller report now the second most important public document in the impeachment investigation of President Donald J. Trump. The conversation only covered two subjects. First, military aid to Ukraine, and second, investigating Joe Biden and Joe Biden's son. That's it. President Zelensky clearly wanted to talk about military aid. President Trump clearly only wanted to talk about Joe Biden. President Zelensky used the standard public manual of flattering Trump in order to get something from him. He actually said to him, "You are a great teacher for us." President Trump then said, "The United States has been very good to Ukraine. I wouldn't say that it's reciprocal necessarily, because things are happening that are not good, but the United States has been very good to Ukraine." President Zelensky kept thanking President Trump profusely and repeatedly, and then he said, "Thank you for your great support in the area of defense. We are ready to continue to cooperate for the next step. Specifically, we are almost ready to buy more javelins from the United States for defense purposes." That was the last word said about defense spending, because Donald Trump did not respond in any way to President Zelensky's desire to buy more Javelin missiles from the United States. We have seen how eager the president is to discuss weapons sales publicly and privately to Saudi Arabia and other countries. But instead of responding to President Zelensky's desire for more javelins, Donald Trump said, "I would like you to do us a favor, though." In the impeachment hearings, the word "though" will be studied in that sentence. The Oxford English Dictionary defines "though" in that usage to mean introducing an additional statement restricting or modifying the preceding statement. So, saying, "I would like you to do us a favor, though," immediately after someone asks for something, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, is putting a restriction on the thing that was just requested. Here was Donald Trump's restriction. "I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine." Trump then suggests that Ukraine has information that could discredit Robert Mueller's investigation, and this phone call is taking place the day after Robert Mueller testified to the House of Representatives. Donald Trump says, "I would like to have the Attorney General call you or your people, and I would like you to get to the bottom of it. As you saw yesterday, that whole nonsense ended with a very poor performance by a man named Robert Mueller, an incompetent performance. But they say a lot of it started with Ukraine. Whatever you can do, it's very important that you do it if that's possible." President Zelensky then eagerly says, "I guarantee, as the president of Ukraine, that all the investigations will be done openly and candidly. That I can assure you." ABC News is reporting tonight that President Zelensky knew that Donald Trump was going to ask him about investigating Joe Biden. President Zelensky does appear ready for that. And it is President Zelensky who first brings up Rudy Giuliani before Donald Trump mentions Giuliani's name. President Zelensky says, "I will personally tell you that one of my assistants spoke with Mr. Giuliani just recently, and we are hoping very much that Mr. Giuliani will be able to travel to Ukraine, and we will meet once he comes to Ukraine." Donald Trump then says, "Mr. Giuliani is a highly respected man. He was the mayor of New York City, a great mayor, and I would like him to call you. I will ask him to call you along with the Attorney General. Rudy very much knows what's happening, and he is a very capable guy. If you could speak to him, that would be great." President Trump goes on to say, "The other thing," that means there's another thing that is restricting President Zelensky's desire for more military equipment from the United States. The other thing, there's a lot of talk about Biden's son, that Biden stopped the prosecution, and a lot of people want to find out about that. So whatever you can do with the Attorney General would be great. Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution. So if you can look into it, it sounds horrible to me. President Zelensky says, "The next prosecutor general will be 100% my person, my candidate, who will be approved by the parliament and will start as a new prosecutor in September. He or she will look into the situation." President Trump says, "I will have Mr. Giuliani give you a call, and I am also going to have Attorney General Barr call, and we will get to the bottom of it. I'm sure you will figure it out." President Zelensky then tries to buy goodwill with Donald Trump, as so many foreign governments have, by telling him that he paid to stay in a Trump hotel. President Zelensky says, "Last time I traveled to the United States, I stayed in New York near Central Park, and I stayed at the Trump Tower." President Trump says, "I will tell Rudy and Attorney General Barr to call. Thank you. Whenever you would like to come to the White House, feel free to call. Give us a date, and we'll work that out. I look forward to seeing you." President Zelensky says, "Thank you very much." And then they both say thank you a couple more times. President Zelensky says, "Bye-bye." It's all there. In Donald Trump's own words, collusion with a foreign government to help Donald Trump's reelection campaign by hurting a candidate running against Donald Trump. There's a lot of talk about Biden's son, that Biden stopped the prosecution, and a lot of people want to find out about that. So, whatever you can do with the Attorney General would be great. Whatever you can do. That's what the President of the United States wanted in that conversation from the President of Ukraine. Whatever you can do to help the reelection campaign of Donald Trump. That is the Donald Trump Jr. meeting at Trump Tower with Russians during the presidential campaign on steroids. Leading off our discussion tonight is Larry Pfeiffer. He's a former director of the White House Situation Room, where he managed President Obama's phone calls with other heads of state. He is also a former chief of staff to the director of the CIA. Larry, thank you for coming back tonight. We have the transcript. You've seen the transcript, and I just want to get a basic verification from you, if you can give it to us, based on what you've seen. Other than the content and what the president is saying to the president of Ukraine, does this look like the standard version of this?
Thanks, Lawrence. Absolutely. It looks like every memorandum of a telephone conversation I saw during my time at the White House, in terms of its format, in terms of the caveats at the bottom in the footnote, in terms of the markings. At a certain level, you almost have to applaud the president for releasing this, what appears to be full transcript.
There are a couple of ellipses in this, and some people are pointing to that, these little ... dots, wondering what that might be about. Are they leaving out significant words there, do you think?
My best guess is either A, it was a pause. There was just a natural pause in the conversation, and they wanted to reflect that. The second possibility is that in the raw transcript that was created in the sit room, they may have had some clunky notation indicating garbled words or unidentified words, and someone on the NSC staff, in an attempt to make it look more elegant, removed the clunky notation and just put the ...
And Larry, in your experience on a document like this, what percentage of it, in your experience in the Obama White House, was accurate, would have matched an audio tape? Does it get into the 90% territory, 95%, 85%?
Well, I think the NSC staffer would be doing his best attempt to take what would have come from the sit room as almost a pure transcript of the conversation. He would have massaged it in an effort to make the language a little more flow a little more beautifully, perhaps a little bit more elegant phraseology, making sure the nouns and the adjectives and the verbs match. So I would say that there would likely not be an attempt to doctor the actual transcript or change the meanings of the words.
And finally, Larry, anything unusual to your eye in this this transcript?
You know, probably the most unusual thing is I sat through a lot of congratulatory phone calls that President Obama made to world leaders upon their reelection or their election. And those generally are fairly pro forma, fairly short. They are congratulating the individual, talking about what good relations we have. And if there are trouble areas, they may just be mentioned at a very broad strategic level. And the president would suggest that we need to get our people together, and I know we'll work it out, something along those lines. Not anything of this specific transactional nature.
Larry Pfeiffer, thank you very much for starting us off.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.